Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to my road to Deadpool and Wolverine. With Deadpool and Wolverine coming to theaters at the end of the month, I'm covering every 20th Century Fox X-Men movie. I've already covered from the first X-Men up through Origins. Playlist link in the eye in the right-hand corner. Go check those videos out for yourself. But now, after suffering through the outhouse that is X-Men Origins Wolverine, we're now back to the penthouse in the form of X-Men First Class. And joining me for this review is the other third of the Small Talk podcast. It is Matt Wyatt. Matt, how you doing?
What's up? Now we're getting into the good stuff and got through the worst X-Men film of all time with Origins, which last night, because it's already up on my channel if you want to see me rant for about 18 minutes on my channel. It was a pain for me to edit that video for a film that I hated so much. But now we're getting into First Class, to the good stuff. Oh, getting that bad taste out of our mouths.
Yeah, we're definitely upgrading in every conceivable form and fashion. X-Men First Class was released in 2011. It was directed by Matthew Vaughn, a sort of kind of director of X-Men already. He sort of directed a good chunk of X-Men The Last Stand, but I talked about that in that video. And the movie sees the first appearance of James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender as Professor X and Magneto, respectively, as well as Nicholas Holt and Jennifer Lawrence. And for all intents and purposes, this is the movie prequel of the X-Men universe. It introduces Professor X, Magneto, gives more context to Magneto's story. We meet Professor X as first a boy, then turning into a young man. We see the formation of the X-Men just in time for an evil Kevin Bacon to show up and try and destroy the world with the Cuban Missile Crisis. So like I talked about with the X-Men The Last Stand video, Matthew Vaughn polished up a lot of that movie and didn't even get a writer's credit. But what he didn't get with the swing, he didn't get with the what he did not get with the swing, he ended up getting with the roundabout. Because X-Men First Class is just so good. Really, I'm surprised, Matt, that no one talks about this movie more often, considering the X-Men series is wildly inconsistent. Like, X-Men First Class is one that I think people tend to forget, or I guess I'm just not running in the same circles.
I mean, it was successful at the box office, and I believe, if I remember correctly, that they wanted to tend this to be more of a prequel and the reboot of the franchise and try to borrow some things that Bryan Singer brought into the X-Men trilogy, but also try to let it be its own standalone story and let it be a new chapter. But I think after the critical reception, like, I think that they wanted to go back and try to connect to the Fox's Bryan Singer's X-Men universe. And from what that we've seen in this movie with the flashback of going back to what we saw with Eric's backstory in the original X-Men movie about him being in the Nazi concentration camp, but now we got more context of the backstory of his history with him and Sebastian Shaw, which they did reuse some of the stock footage of the original X-Men movie in the concentration camp. When I saw that in the theater, I was like, wait a minute, so they're actually going to connect this into the X-Men universe? That's just our answer. That was our answer. And I think Matthew Vaughn is definitely was the best choice to direct the film. I mean, this is a guy who came off of the film that made Stardust. He made Kick-Ass, like a satire superhero movie. We never thought that he would actually have the same kind of tone. This is more of a political thriller, and it took us back to why we love the first two X-Men movies that tackled a lot of the political aspects of the film, of the whole concept of the idea of the whole persecution and the Civil Rights Act thing. And I thought that they did great. I mean, what they did with X-Men: The Last Stand and X-Men Origins kind of took everything that we loved about it and went completely out the door. And Fox clearly listened to the critical reception and realized, no, we don't want to turn this X-Men into an action-oriented generic superhero movie. We wanted to take things that worked in the first two and bring it back, and that's what Matthew Vaughn did.
Talk about just a brutal opening. Like, not only do we relive the whole scene where young Magneto is pulling at the gate, but then we get to meet Sebastian Shaw, who is just the worst. He is the literal worst.
Because when we start, before he becomes Magneto, when he becomes the Magneto character, he's more of the Malcolm X, where he's knowing that his kind will never be accepted by the humanity. That's the kind of ideology of his character. And Charles Xavier has always been like the Martin Luther King Jr. when they wanted all humans in mutants live together. That's what he believes in his own conviction. But for Sebastian Shaw, he's all about genocidal maniac and just wiping the human race out. That the mutants are now the next stage of human evolution, and he's, like I said, he's definitely like the Hitler figure.
Matt, I don't know if I believe you've seen Maxine, right?
Oh no, I have not seen it yet. I know it's out, and I haven't got the time to watch it yet.
Well, Kevin Bacon is in that movie. I won't say who he is, but let me just say, because I have seen Maxine, it is very good.
Hmm.
Kevin Bacon subtly plays a good villain. Like he's known for being, Kevin Bacon, like Apollo 13, Footloose, among other things.
Are you sure he's not going to dance his way in Footloose in this movie with Magneto?
He started dancing.
That dude, that hair, that hairstyle felt like a little bit of a Footloose thing. It's like, is he not going to doing dance off against Magneto?
That would have been amazing if he did. But subtly though, Kevin Bacon does play a very good villain. Like he's just evil. Like Magneto does some very bad things in the first X-Men movie. Let's not get that twisted. But he does it admittedly in his own way for a noble cause. And like you touched on, Sebastian Shaw just hates pretty much everyone and everything and just wants to cause chaos. And Kevin Bacon just did the best job with it possible. I mean, it doesn't help things that Shaw has like what I'm gonna call like a fuck you mutant power where he can absorb energy and momentum. Not only does it keep him young, but it also
But he
like
uses it as his strength. He uses his strength against other people. I mean, that's kind of what the similar ability that Bishop had in the X-Men comics and animation. They both share the similar power.
honestly, Shaw is surrounded by mutants that have like fuck you mutant powers, like Emma
Yeah,
Frost.
I know.
And
Especially like I know we're jumping a little bit of ahead, but once we see that the death of Darwin, when he tried to go toe to toe with Sebastian and took that piece of kinetic optic energy that Havoc used on that Scott what was the Eric Summers used
yeah,
it against him and just drop it down his mouth and explode from inside, even though he had the adaptation of survival. That was crazy. Like I in my mind, I was like, how in the hell are they gonna stop him? He's way too powerful. Like you said, it's like a fuck you to mutant.
like and not to mention Azazel. I mean, good Lord, like that mutant was just way too OP. Like he just whistles and he's like and then, like he shows up. Like he not only does he look
They
like
can hear he
Deadpool,
can hear a whistle from whatever location he may be from far distance.
apparently,
I
but
mean, from Azazel, like I didn't really know much about Azazel, and then I did my research. So when I saw the trailer and I saw that he had the ability to teleport and he had the similar appearance of Nightcrawler, so I looked his up his bio from the comics, and it seems like that he is the biological father from Nightcrawler. That's Nightcrawler's
oh,
son, and Mystique is supposed to be the mother. Because I remember when I rewatched that 1990s animated series, and Mystique is the biological mother of Nightcrawler. But even though they never touched on it,
that's a like Nightcrawler's got some amazing genetics. Let's just leave
yeah, I guess Mystique got busy and fucked Azazel from time to time.
apparently. But as crazy as this movie does get, and it does get very crazy indeed, I think the strength of the movie really concentrates on the story of Magneto and Professor X, because it is well established that, like you touched on, Matt, Professor X is the Martin Luther King Jr., and Magneto is the Malcolm X. The two, very clearly, as shown in the first X-Men movie, were very good friends, and you can tell that they still do have a bit of a friendship and they do have a respect for each other, but they disagree on one thing, and that one thing just destroyed everything. And this movie pretty much adds as much context as you could ever ask for how and why their friendship basically fell apart. I love the scene where it's just after Erica Magneto sees Shaw's submarine getting away, and he tries to pull it like with his magnetism, and like and Charles like reads his mind, and he's like, I know what they did to you, but you gotta breathe. And like he just comes up, and then he goes to leave, and then Professor X is like, now you're a part of something much bigger than yourself. James McAvoy doesn't get nearly the credit that I think that he deserves just as being Professor X. Like whoever did the casting for this deserved a raise.
Yeah, I mean, it became a proven point that you can recast a younger version of the iconic character, and it's all about who is the right fit for the role, and it actually captured the spirit of the character and staying true to it. And James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender were the perfect choice. And originally, when they were doing X-Men Origins Wolverine, they were like trying to spin off a lot of these X-Men characters of their own, and they were starting off to do a origin story of Magneto, and that never happened. And they saw the critical reception and how much it became a major like disaster. And you know what? We want to do something a little bit different. We want to tell the backstory between Charles and Magneto and how we can make that work. And they hired the right great writers. They hired the right director to tell the story. And getting this, like I said, like piggyback on what I said before, they brought back the concept of why we love the X-Men movies in the first place.
The thing that always got me about this movie was that it can be very serious, but it can also be lighthearted, and the movie knows exactly when to be serious and lighthearted, and it doesn't cross the streams, to use a Ghostbusters reference. Like, for example, when Magneto and Professor X go and find the first group of X-Men, it's like upbeat and very lighthearted. Not only do we get that, but we get the greatest cameo in X-Men movie history where Hugh Jackman is sitting at the bar and I'll play the clip.
Excuse me, I'm Eric Lensher.
Charles Xavier.
Go fuck yourself.
But Professor X and Magneto show up and be like, "Hello, my name is Charles Xavier, and I'm Eric Lensher." And he's like, "Go fuck yourself." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, the moment that you see a cigar coming up and you see Hugh Jackman, you know it's Wolverine. And I was shocked when I saw that cameo in the theater. I was like, wait a minute, hold up. I never thought he was going to show up in this cameo. I think at the time that they wanted to be a little bit of a wink and nod, like, hey, here's Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, a little bit of a wink and nod cameo role. But now they canonized that that's definitely Wolverine in the movie. And I thought it was a cute subtlety cameo. I was like, hey, I'm Eric Lensher. I'm Charles Xavier. Go fuck yourself. I was like, damn, dude, he didn't even hear the pitch. He just completely just tell him to F off.
Not to mention that cameo would come back to, or not the cameo rather, but that those words would come back to bite Wolverine in the ass and at a later date in
Yep,
days.
it did. And I was so happy that they brought that up in X-Men Days of Future Past. I was like, yeah.
That was a nice little bit of, in a series that just farts in the general direction of linear continuity, that was a nice rare bit of, hey, you remember that? Well, we're gonna reference it. And that was all very nice indeed.
Yeah, it didn't really become like a pointless cameo. It brought it back from the next movie.
Well, I think, like I said, going back to Professor X and Magneto and their story, this movie knows exactly what to focus on with them as the core. However, there are little like splinter stories and subplots in between there, like Mystique, for example. I Matt, since I have you here, I want to ask, what are your thoughts on J Law as Mystique? Because I've heard mixed opinions on the casting choice. Because Jennifer Lawrence is a talented actress. Let's not get that twisted. But I think as the movies went on, she kind of stopped caring. I don't know if that's like an accurate.
Look, I thought she stopped caring during the time that they were filming X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. I think that's when she stopped caring about being in the X-Men movies. I think she was just done at that time. And when they cast Jennifer Lawrence, she wasn't really a movie star at the time. She was a working actress. This was before the Hunger Games. That what set her name on the map. And I thought that the casting choice was pretty interesting to cast someone who's younger, and they wanted to give her more character depth and the backstory of the history with Charles Xavier and how she was grown up with them and raised in a nice home in a mansion, like becoming brother and sister, and seeing more of the history of with her and Magneto and how she crossed paths with them. Even though but Charles wants her to hide her true self, while Magneto was all about you shouldn't have to hide, you should be able to be accepted in the public no matter what you look like. And that's why she wanted to turn to Magneto more because he's the only one who gets her.
This is the movie where we get the meme of Magneto going, "I want to see the real you." No, not
Oh,
that
dude,
one.
that meme became a major trend. Even though they don't talk about the movie enough, but that scene itself it became a big trend with the memes, especially Perfection that
Yeah.
we use all the time. I use that gifs all the time.
It's one of those, this movie, like I said, it's very subtly establishes Professor X's point of view and Magneto's point of view just about perfect. And if you watch this movie and like go back and watch X-Men or X2, if those movies explain it good, but if you know the context, what is introduced in First Class, it makes it even more richer, I guess. And like I said, these two, being Professor X and Magneto, they were friends. You could tell from one of my favorite scenes in the movie where Professor X helps Magneto concentrate his powers to move the satellite dish. That is subtly a great moment in comic book movie history, right there.
Yeah, I do agree that it was great, but let's remember, I feel like the writers took notes from Star Wars where Magneto was just channeling his dark side of the Force, the light side of the Force, while freaking Sebastian Shaw was trying to tap into his own anger and rage, which he's basically the Emperor. While Charles is more like the Obi-Wan figure where he's trying to teach him how to use it for the on a positive note, if that makes any sense, the light of it. It's like I feel your anger. It
I mean,
good.
I mean, Matthew Vaughn, if he had to pull from something, I mean, pull from the best. Hmm.
Exactly. And I love that they made Magneto more of the complex and more have more character depth instead of just being the Magneto that we know from Ian McKellen's take. They wanted to humanize him more and make him understand his side of the story and his point of view, like you mentioned earlier. And I love that with the friendship between the two of them with him and Charles. But the best part of the movie that I really love is when they're both playing chess. When they're about to go ready to go off into before they go off into battle, there's in a conversation of what happens if we stop a war and what happens after that, or because Magneto believes that the humans are going to turn on him when they're no longer used for them, and once the mutants know that they exist. And like Charles is more naive. He believes that they will be reunite they'll be united as one. That's and they'll be accepted in society. Where Magneto is more about the opposite. They are just using us now. And it's a quote from the Dark Knight movie from Heath Ledger's Joker. They need you now, but when they don't, they'll cast you out. That's clearly like a similar quote that he used in the movie. And I thought by the time you get to the third act, when they're like aiming the missiles on the beach on the shore, Magneto was right. They were going to turn on him the first chance they get. That was their opportunity, and he was right the whole time. And yeah, and he even though he wants revenge, but he also wants more. Because in the beginning, he was all about going on a revenge quest for his going after his mother's killer. But now, when getting to know Charles and his cause, and he believes that we can all be united, but not with the humans. And I thought that was so good. In the scene quote that Charles said that killing Shaw will not give you peace, but he Magneto says peace was never an option. What a
I
powerful scene from both sides that we love.
I love that scene so much. The chess scene, I was gonna bring up the if you do this, you will never know peace. Like that scene, that was so good. Like and like I talked about briefly on McAvoy, he's really good, but Michael Fassbender, talk about like perfect casting choices for a young Magneto. I love the scene where he is in Argentina going after those I don't know if I can say it on YouTube, but those really passionate Germans in the bar. And and
Yeah,
where
those were the ex-Nazis that served in the camps, and that they were probably one of the guards that was torturing one of the prisoners and
yeah,
his family that were taken away from pig farmers and taters. Schneider. I love
I
that scene in the bar. It almost felt like an Inglorious Bastard dialogue with a German dialogue. If you really watch it, it had some similarities to it, which Michael Fassbender was in Inglorious Bastards.
three, please.
Yep, that's the
Yeah,
one.
that whole scene, and then it ends with I'm Frankenstein's monster, and I'm looking for my creator. And then the scene before that, where Fassbender's in the bank, and he's like, these were pulled from teeth. This is blood money. And so he pulls out a dude's filling, like his gold filling. That was so gross. Like, but it proved his point.
But also he was ruthless. He in
Yeah.
his younger days he was way more ruthless, and I love that. You know the losing of the tooth? It kind of reminded me in Home Alone 1 when fucking Harry loses his gold tooth. Where's my gold tooth? I kill, I kill. I always think about that every time someone loses that gold tooth. That reminded me in Home Alone.
Harry, you're missing some teeth. What?
Where's my gold tooth? Where's my gold tooth? I'll
I'll
kill
kill
him.
him. I'll kill him. I'll kill him.
I'll kill him.
Oh my God, that was such a funny little moment in that movie. But as far as First Class goes, like I said, it's a bit of a shame that I don't think this movie gets talked about a lot more often. Like, I mean, it's got to be one of the best prequel comic book movie prequels ever. I don't know how deep the pool for those exactly is, but it was like the perfect like movie to offset the awfulness of Origins, and then the potential kind of got squandered with Apocalypse, and that's going to be a story for a whole nother video in this series. But Matthew Vaughn just set this up brilliantly at like combining real life stuff with just planting the seeds for the paranoia with the mutants and just everything like that. This movie is getting an amazing grade from me. It's honestly a severely underrated part of the X-Men series, and parts of it I don't think will ever get the quality of ever again, which is a bit of a shame. And shout out to Nicholas Holt, who plays Young Beast. I want to touch on him before we end this. And rewatching clips of him as Young Beast for this was like, him being cast as Lex Luthor is not as far-fetched as I first assumed.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I've always thought that when they cast Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, I thought, yeah, he's a great talented actor. I've seen him in a lot of roles, and I could definitely see him playing the next Lex Luthor. And I thought his take of the younger, like Hank McCoy, playing this Beast character, who's before he became Beast, he was very insecure of how he would look, and he's been trying to find a cure to cure his appearance. Mostly, it was just starting off from his feet that nobody's gonna notice anyway. So I don't know why he had to go through all that trouble. Like nobody's gonna pay attention to it anyway. But but him, how he was able to like he was so insecure of how he would look when he turns into Beast, and he always wanted to be like everybody else. He doesn't want to be a mutant. He wants to be the complete opposite of that. He wants to be part of like everybody else. And I thought it was an interesting backstory for Hank McCoy that he has a hard time accepting himself.
You're never going to match the greatness of Kelsey Grammer in this role, but if you're going to cast a young Beast, Nicholas Holt was like the perfect guy to do it.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, and I always love Kelsey Grammer's Beast a little bit more because he's more faithful to the character than Nicholas Holt. And also, what did you think about the whole love story between Mystique and Beast? I mean, did that work for you or no?
Not particularly, no. Thankfully, it's kind of downplayed and it's not in the movie all that much. But you can I mean, we have the burden of knowledge in that we all know that Mystique is basically going to be Magneto's right-hand mutant after the end of this, and that is exactly what happens. So
Did you like the line "mutant and proud"?
that I on
I
I
don't
thought
know how I felt about that. I mean, it sounds good at first, but then from time goes on, I don't know. It kind of felt cheesy.
it's not terrible. I didn't hate it, but I can see why somebody wouldn't like it, presume.
Did you notice that some of the cameos when Charles used the cerebro for the first time that Hank built that machine that can enhance his telepathic powers to connect every living person on the planet to find mutants, and you see a bunch of pop-up cameos of the character, and you see a little bit of Storm, and you see Cyclops. Those were the cameos, but obviously they kind of retcon that timeline. So that, I mean, that was just more of a wink and a nod to me. I thought that was interesting. And the whole montage of them training a bunch of young mutants before they go off into power, I thought that was pretty cool. The visual shots of how they did it from a comic book page, from different angles of the camera angles without doing jump cuts. I thought that was pretty good montage. I don't know what you thought about that.
No, I liked that too, and I liked seeing Cerebro like before Cerebro would become the big blue dome. Like it was very primitive, is like the technology is not even there yet, but Professor X is so smart that even the primitive stuff he almost like he pretty much makes it work. So so that I thought was a very nice touch. But I passed it off to all of you. What did you all think of X-Men First Class? Let us know in the comments. I'd love to read what you have to say. Matt, thank you so much for joining me for this. It was fun revisiting this one. And you are going through a similar road to Deadpool and Wolverine series on your channel. So, and your Origins review is already up, and I will be watching it in a little bit and ready to laugh. But tell the people where they can find you.
But I'll say one thing before we close this off. I did love the coin scene when Magneto used the
Oh,
coin against. I know we have to wrap this up, but I want to mention it before I forget. That coin when he uses it against Sebastian Shaw when he was being frozen from Charles's mind, and that was so cool. And he tells him like he agrees what he was saying about his cause, but you killed my mom, so you're gonna die. And I'm gonna count to 3 and move the coin.
And the
And from
coin goes straight through
through
Shaw's.
his skull, as Charles is still, he's feeling everything that Shaw is feeling from a different like for transition to Shaw and Charles. That was perfect. That was like, wow, that was so damn heavy moment in that movie that I really loved.
Me in the future put in the Homelander clip of him saying it was perfect. It was literally perfect.
That's the one. That's like the next version of perfect meme, like Michael Fassbender's Magneto Perfection.
Yeah, but
But
thank you for bringing that up. I would have done this whole video without even bringing that up. One of
yeah,
the
and you watch this video like, fuck, why did I not thought about that?
Yeah, that's why I have guests on sometimes. They get
No,
stuff.
because I do that too, because there are a lot of stuff in X-Men Origins that in my review that I forgot to mention a couple things like the writer's strike and the co-writer from X-Men Origins was one of the writers from Game of Thrones. I forgot to bring that up. So yeah, it's only better when you bring on a couple of people on here to have a conversation, and sometimes your memory comes back to you and it gets piggyback into it. That's what I appreciate about it.
Exactly. But your link tree is in the description. Your Origins review is up now. What
Yeah,
else?
prepare to watch me rant about it and laugh about it.
I will certainly do that. But you are also one-third of the Small Talk podcast, which drops every Tuesday. By the time this video goes up, our watch party for the episode Justice will be this coming Tuesday. So stay tuned for that because these guys, being Matt and Jacob, have seen it and I haven't. I think I know what's going to happen, but there's part of me that's like, no, I probably don't. So I'm looking forward to that very much.
But you already seen who's in it because you saw the wallpaper and it
Yeah.
kind of got spoiled in the Talkville.
I mean, I haven't seen the Talkville, but what I have, I've seen I've seen the still shot of
Yeah,
the Smallville universe's Justice League there, so I know it happens, but I just don't know anything else therein.
but you're gonna love that episode. It's my favorite of the season. Like that was like the closest thing to a mini Justice League that we've gotten in that show before this whole like this was like before this whole like Avengers a crossover event and before the DC Universe Arrowverse.
Yeah. But look forward to that this coming Tuesday. And as far as this series goes, next up on my channel for this series, I'm going to be covering what Logan should have been, but we still had to wait 4 more years afterwards for. It is the Wolverine, and I'm going to be joined by my buddy Phil from Phil Talks Sports to review that one. But for Matt Wyatt, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all in the next one. Y'all take care.